Hello, I'm JW. Today we're going to have a look at these dimming things again and test them out with various different types of lamp, so some LED and even some compact fluorescent. And we've also got another dimmer as well to have a look at, and we'll see what the power consumption of various things is as well. So let's have a quick look at the setup. So as I was seeing these in the other video, these are rated up to 300 watts as it says on the back there, and it's just plugs in and adjust the knob for dimming. Now we've got a whole different load of lamps here. Some of these are LEDs, some of these are more typical sort of filament style. Got some of these compact fluorescent things as well. Some of these LEDs are dimmable, others are not, or at least they don't claim to be. We're going to test them out with the dimming thing here. We've also got this here, which is more like a dimmer you would put on the wall of your house, so normal light switch size, just wired up to this box here, so we can test it out for this as well. And this one is a 400 watt dimmer. And most importantly, it only goes from 60 to 400 watts according to what's on the back of it, so in theory you shouldn't use this with loads less than 60 watts, so we'll see what happens with that one. This doesn't have a minimum specified, it just says 300 watts maximum, so anyone's guess as to what may happen with that. And we've got this lamp holder here just on the orange flexer, so we just plug that into whatever we need to, and of course power from this extension block on the side. Now, I saw in the other video these were sent in as possibly faulty, but turned out that they apparently are not. So let's just test some of these out with these normal lamps first. So just plug in there, and got a selection of these now. This is the 40 watt thing which we had in the previous video, so let's plug that in there, and we can turn the brightness up like that. So that's pretty much what we saw last time, no real surprise there. And if we try that on the direct supply, which is over here, again it's pretty much what you'd expect as the same. So I'd say we've seen that previously. This is a 25 watt, so considerably lower power. Let's just see what it looks like in full power there. And then on the dimmer, well again it looks pretty much the same, and yet we can vary the brightness down to pretty much nothing, as you'd expect. So again, that seems to be fine. It doesn't obviously have a problem with lamps below that rating. So let's just get rid of that one. Now this one here, which is a rather strange one, is actually a 15 watt, and again just incandescent style. So plug that one in. We can again see the decent range of brightness again. So that's again not a problem. We'll try again direct on the supply. Pretty much the same. So this thing doesn't appear to have much of a problem with minimum load, so that was down to a 15. And we also have this nice red one. This is a 60, and again no problem in varying that down to pretty much the minimum. We are still getting that sort of dead space at the bottom there as before, but so if we turn that there, that sort of range there with nothing in, but again it dims perfectly well across the whole brightness range. So incandescent one's certainly down to 15 watts, no problem with that. Now let's try some of these LED types things here now. This one here is a 4.8 watt. It's branded Energetic, whoever they are, and this is supposed to be a dimmable one, so we'll try that out. It also says filament, but it seems a bit pointless because it's no sort of frosted enclosure, but anyway, let's see what we get with this one. So shove that in. Okay, well it does dim. You may hear there's quite a bit of noise coming out of the thing there. And even at full brightness there's quite a lot of sort of buzzing noise coming out of it, and there's a bit of flicker as well. So just below with the full it's sort of fairly well on solid, and it can be dimmed to a reasonable amount of control, but again there's quite a lot of dead space here, even more so than before. We're only halfway around there and it's already on the minimum setting, so dimmable to an extent, but not particularly what you call impressive. Now this one, this is the same make. This is a 5.1 watt, and again this was sold as being a dimmable variety, so plug in there. So that's up at full brightness there. Again there is that slight flicker there. If we just turn that down slightly, it is on solid there. And again if we turn down the brightness, it does dim, but again we've got a huge amount of dead space. We're only on about 50% of the range there before it goes off completely. So dimmable, yes, but certainly not as good as the Incandescent. There was also a bit of buzzing on that one, not quite as much as before, but certainly has got some. So that's a dimmable version. And then the last dimmer one we got is this one. This is a 10 watt. This is a Corby lighting brand, but obviously it's all made in China somewhere. So 10 watts. Let's see what we have with this one. So again, it sort of comes on at the middle of the range of the dial. No audible noise on this one, so certainly better in that regard. A bit of flicker depending on where the thing is actually positioned, but it does seem to dim over most of the range, although it tends to sort of burst on there, then you can dim it down below that. And again, we're only using about half the range on the dial here. That part there just is basically dead space. So again, dimmable to a certain extent, but not particularly impressive. Now this thing here, this is a 4.3 watt, and this is not dimmable, so who knows what's going to happen with this one. So again, we'll just turn on. So it comes on around pretty much sort of 3/4 around the dial there. There's no dimming control really whatsoever, and below it just sort of flickers and goes off. So yeah, clearly not a dimmable version. There's a sort of dull glow there, and then a slight movement, and it bursts on at pretty much full power. So clearly not dimmable. If we turn it down slowly, yeah, and it just goes off. So other than that dull glow at the bottom, it's pretty much on or off, so no dimming there, but at least it doesn't do anything undesirable. It's pretty much just on and off at a certain point on the range. Now this is a 4 watt, again different make. This is a Meridian lighting and a little filamenty style thing. So let's see what we get there. Well, at the bottom we've got a very dull glow, and it gradually gets brighter, but then it sort of flickers and strobes, and that is pretty much near the full there. So full brightness, slightly less, it's sort of horribly flashy and flickery, and then below that you're just getting this incredibly dull glow in there, which, although yes it can be varied, of course that's so dim as to be unusable anyway. So yeah, not dimmable, but perhaps it didn't claim to be. And then of course now we have these jolly things which are pretty much obsolete now, these compact fluorescent jobs. This one is an 8 watt and it's an Osram Dulux Star. Let's turn down to minimum to start with. Now these of course are not designed to be dimmable either, so can't imagine this is going to be very successful. So just turning up the knob there. So it's on, but so there's not really any dimming going on there, it's just pretty much on. And then if we turn it there, a bit of flicker. So that's pretty much down at the minimum now. Yeah, so once it's on, basically it's on, and it's on at the whatever brightness it's at. Adjusting the dial makes pretty much no difference. Slightly dimmer in the middle for some reason, but at the bottom it's brighter, and at the top it's brighter as well. So not dimmable, but doesn't do anything undesirable. It's just basically on at a pretty much fixed brightness the whole time. Now this one is a Philips, and this one is an 11. I wrote it on larger because it is printed there in microscopic text. Need an electron microscope to see that. So let's see what we've got here. There was a brief flash when we plugged it in on the lowest setting, turning up the power. Well, there's a whole flickering business going on there and some buzzing coming out of it. Less flickery but still buzzing. Yeah, so at the full brightness or the full setting it's basically on. Turn it down, you get this buzzing. Doesn't really adjust the brightness much. And then of course there's the horrible flickering business and all that. So not very successful, and certainly worse than the other one. And this is another Philips one. This is an 8 watt, similar to that thing we had. So what we've got here, well, at the lowest setting it's flashing randomly there, sort of on and off every second or so. Turning up we're sort of getting a horrible flickery buzzing noise, and it's sort of on solid, and at the full it's sort of on without any noise going on. So yeah, it's a bit of a disaster there as well. So this thing doesn't do too badly. It seems to work reasonably well with the LED ones that are designed as being dimmable, although I say not perfect because again the range is sort of compressed up at the top end here. And of course with non-dimmable ones, some fare better than others, no doubt due to how they're designed internally. Now for this bit, I'm just going to show you what happens with this dimmer. And now this has a minimum on the back rating of 60 watts, and this is the kind of thing you would normally have put in your house on the wall, and it was designed in the era when incandescent lamps were common. So if we just try it with the 60 watt lamp first, I'll use this red one. So this is at its minimum rating, and just take it off of the other dimmer there. Now on the direct power, that's pretty much what it looks like, and if you put it into this dimmer here, we can then turn that on. So again, full brightness, not a problem. Turning down, nice smooth control, pretty much all the way down to nothing. And again, there is that bit of dead space at the bottom, which seems to be a characteristic of all of these dimmers. So again, no problems with that. Dims throughout the range as you would expect. Now I'll show you what happens when we use something that's below its maximum rating. So we're going to use this 25 watt one we have here. Just pop that in there. So 25 watts direct on the power. Looks like this. I put it into the dimmer and we just turn up the power. So it does work, but you see there there's some kind of flickering going on and it's incredibly dim. And as we turn it up, it sort of stepped up in brightness there. Still very flickery and not the sort of thing you'd actually want. And we turn it to full power, then it doesn't flicker anymore. But the difference is here, this is actually at maximum. That's what it looks like on the supposed maximum dimmer. This is what it should look like. Clearly a lot brighter. So because this is a 25 and this is a minimum of 60, this really doesn't work well. And although it actually comes on at a solid brightness, it's nowhere near the maximum that it should be. And if we try, say, some of these dimmable LEDs, let's see what kind of mess we get with that. So that's that one there. It does dim sort of reasonably well through the range there. Quite a bit of buzzing going on though. And again, that's allegedly full brightness. And if we try it full on the power, that is what full brightness is. So it's the same problem in that it will turn on, but it's nowhere near brightness that it obviously should be. And just because we can, we'll just try one of these fluorescent jobs here. Can't imagine it's going to be too successful. And as before, yeah, we're getting this sort of flickering thing if you attempt to dim it. At the top it's sort of kind of on, but not really recommended, and it's buzzing noise unless it's literally at full power. Now just one other thing with dimmers, in that even if you've got the correct dimmer and the correct power and whatever else attached, even when it's turned to maximum, you don't actually get the thing running at its full brightness. It's fairly close, but not actually what you'd have. So I've got this red one in here, that's the 60 watt one. If you plug it in the back of here, direct on the power, then we can see the power usage is actually around 62 watts. Voltage is a bit high today, 243, so it's slightly over the 60 it should be. So 62 watts directly on there. If we plug it into the dimmer, and so this is rated from 60 watts, so no problem there, then even with it turned to maximum, we're only getting a power of around 60 watts. So we've actually lost about 2 watts, simply the fact that even when the dimmer is on full, it's not actually driving it at the full power, so it's fairly close. And if we turn down the power, you can see the brightness and power will reduce. But one interesting fact here is that the power isn't linear with the brightness output, because if we set it to about half power here, so about 30 watts, this is far less than half brightness. And just to prove that, we'll just go to the full brightness there. Maybe difficult to see on camera. And then of course if we turn down to through the dullest glow that's visible, still using around 7 watts. So power consumption on these is not linear. And at full brightness, like I say, it's considerably more efficient in terms of the light that's being put out. And you also note when it's on full power, or allegedly it's around that just under 60 watts, the power factor is only 0.98, whereas it should normally be 1. And again, that's because it's still switching this thing on and off, and obviously isn't purely connected straight through. And again, if we just place the lamp on direct, Yeah, we get that to around 62 watts, and the power factor, of course, is 1 exactly, as you would expect. Now just have a look at some of these LEDs, see what power they do really use. Just place it on top of this Sky box here. It's a box with Sky printed on the corner. Now, if we check out one of the incandescent jobs, plug that in. This is the 15 watts, so again it's 15.8. Again, it's slightly more because the voltage is 243 rather than 240 that it was rated for, but close enough. And again, here is the original one we had, that 40 watt job, and unsurprisingly pretty close to the 40 watts, though interestingly slightly lower in that case, the manufacturer being a bit rude and cheaty there. So let's have a look at these LED jobs now. This is the one which says it's supposed to be 4.8, so it's that Energetic brand, whatever that is, 4.8 watts. Let's see what we get. So we're actually getting about 5.4 watts, so that's considerably more than it claims. Power factor is 0.8, so not terrible, but certainly worse than the one, which would be ideal. So that seems reasonable enough. Actually considerably more than its rated power. And we have this filamenty style one here. This is also one of these Energetic brands. Claims to be 5.1, and again 40 watts equivalent, so they shouldn't really sell them like that these days. So plugging in, and again that's actually drawing about 5.3 watts, power factor again 0.8 or 0.87 there, so again pretty decent for that one. It's one of these filamenty style ones with the actual glass covering, so they're fairly decent on that one. Interesting, it's only got 2 of the, well, not filaments, but the filament type things in there, so it's driving those about 2.5 watts each, so that's certainly fairly powerful there. This little one here, which is a Pro Elec brand, that's one you can buy from CPC. 4.3 watts it claims, so let's see what we get there. Yeah, 4.4, so again that's pretty much spot on. Power factor only of 0.5 though in this case, so that's considerably worse. Now this 10 watt Corby lighting, and this claims to be equivalent to a 60 watt, but in terms of its light output, so plugging in there. So this is actually slightly under, it's actually 9.5 watts, power factor again 0.8 or so, so fairly similar to the others. And then the last one is this Meridian lighting. This is a 4 watt filament, and it's got 4 individual filaments, so obviously it's 1 watt per actual LED string in there. Again, it is glass, very small size, so let's see what we get with this one. Pretty much 4 watts exactly, power factor 0.5, so again not too bad, and decent amount of light coming out of that, even at so a very low wattage. And I'm sure someone's going to ask, so let's try these manky old complex fluorescent jobs. This is the 8 watt Philips. Power is actually 8.9 watts, power factor very poor, 0.6, but again nothing too surprising as it's fairly comparable with the LED ones. Of course the problem with these particularly is that they don't come up to full brightness immediately. You have to plug them in and then wait for, in some cases, minutes before the full brightness is emitted, so not particularly useful in that regard. And the 11 watt one, again the Philips one, 10.8 watts, power factor 0.6, so again, pretty much what it claims. And then this is a 8 watt one, but it's the Osram variety, 7.8 watts, power factor 0.58. So it's up there at dimming and dimmers, and certainly those plug-in ones seem to work perfectly well with even dimmable LEDs, being one of those are very low load in the sub 10 watts range. This thing, which is more like the thing you put on the wall in your house, unfortunately does not, mainly because it's only designed for loads of 60 watts or above, and of course LEDs are going to be far less than that. So if you are going to fit dimmers and things in, it's very important to make sure you're going to get a dimmer which is first of all compatible with LEDs. This one was not sold as being such. And most importantly, it's going to be in the range of the lighting you're going to be installing. So if you're going to put a single LED in a room that's only going to be 10 watts, you do need a dimmer that's actually rated down to 10 watts. It's not just the maximum rating, which is important anymore. And certainly you can get now dimmers which are specifically for LEDs, and some of them have various modes and settings on the back to adjust for different types of LED. But nevertheless, those plug-in ones seem to work perfectly well, so still unclear what the deal with those was or what the fault was supposed to be. And until next time, thanks for watching.